Hello everyone, welcome to our new video that is about bread fermentation. Do you know fermentation is one of the main steps in bread making process? Fermentation is a process that converts sugar into carbon dioxide along with other substances like alcohol or lactic acid. The release of an abundant amount of carbon dioxide is actually responsible for the rise of bread. In a bread making process, alcoholic fermentation is a common practice. In this process, yeast is added into dough that converts carbohydrate that is present in the dough into alcohol and carbon dioxide. Now, what are the main factors that affect fermentation product? That include well-kneaded dough. The smoothness of the dough increases its ability to hold more amount of carbon dioxide, thus improves the quality of bread. Second one is quantity of yeast. The lower amount of yeast will prolong the fermentation time, whereas the higher content of yeast reduces the fermentation time. However, longer fermentation time improves the texture and aroma of the bread. Next one is quantity of dough. The more quantity of dough will require more amount of yeast and also prolong the fermentation time. Next one is quality of dough. To prepare an improved quality of bread, the flour must contain higher content of gluten. Another factor is temperature. For a bread making process, yeast perform best at 35 to 45 degrees Celsius or 95 to 113 degrees Fahrenheit. The lower temperature will slow down the entire process, whereas the higher temperature will start producing bad aroma and ultimately kill the yeast cells required for the process of fermentation. Next is pH requirement. Yeast perform best at slightly acidic condition. The pH ranges between 4.5 to 6.5 is considered best for the bread formation. Another factor is water content. 50% of water in dough is considered optimal for the bread formation. However, uncontrolled yeast reproduction can be observed when excessive amount of water is present. Another important factor is sugar content. Around 2 to 10% sugar is optimal for the yeast. The higher quantity of sugar can adversely affect the yeast growth by creating osmotic pressure. However, some residual sugar is essential to create a specific color in the bread. Another important factor is salt content. Yeast cells are not able to tolerate more than 2.5% of salt. Higher concentration of salt will create higher osmotic pressure, thus adversely affect the growth of yeast. Now let's discuss different stages of bread fermentation. First one is pre-ferment. It is an optional stage during which dough, flour and water is fermented for a long period of time. This gives a specific taste and aroma to the bread. The next stage is called first fermentation. In this step, pre-ferment is added in rest of the dough. The first stage of fermentation starts after the bread is kneaded. During kneading, the gluten is stretched into a network of stretches that later trap the carbon dioxide released by yeast during fermentation, and hence it helps in rising the bread. Due to this property of gluten, the bread with zero gluten mostly have very dense and chewy texture. Due to entrapped air within the gluten stretches, the volume of the bread increases to double during this stage. This process can take up to 8 hours. Next stage is resting stage. After the dough is raised, the next stage is called resting stage. In this stage, the dough is deflated, then divided into different sizes and shapes. Then the dough is kept on bench with a dumped towel over it for 30 minutes. During this stage, the gluten is settled. After resting stage, the next stage is called final proofing. In this stage, the bread is prepared for baking. This stage is final before baking stage. In this stage, the dough is covered with damp cloth and left at room temperature. The rise of dough in this stage will not be same as observed during first stage. However, the size of the bread in this stage will be increased up to 80%. The time required for this stage is approximately 1 hour. The final stage is baking. In the final stage, the bread is expanded due to the steam generation, and all the alcohol produced during the fermentation is evaporated out. That was all about bread fermentation. Thank you for watching the video. Please subscribe to our channel and click on bell icon for more videos.